Yo, what's up guys? Bajheera here. This video is going to be a level 91 update for our Smith of Kitava build and Path of Exile 2. So, man oh man, it's been a few days. We've been playing some World of Warcraft, so we have not been putting in quite as much work on our Smith character. However, I'm pretty much still fully obsessed with Path of Exile 2, so we have been playing a little bit while we can. And we've actually still made a little bit of progress in terms of the overall progression of this dude. Namely, we did get our fourth and final ascendancy, and we have quite a bit to talk about in terms of the talents. So for this video, we're going to be showing you guys a little bit about the bossing setup. Now, the thing about it is, I think that basically what we've done is, what I'm playing with right now is not skipping over a stage, but there's one sort of like version of the build that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because this right here is not what I did my fourth ascendancy with, but I think it'll make sense if we go through it. So let me just get started, okay? So some of the things that have been able to happen because of the fourth ascendancy are, we grabbed body armor grants 15% increased max life. And then a big thing is body armor grants 20% increased strength. So part of me also thinks that I might want to move this 15% max life over to body armor. Also applies to, or not body armor. Armor also applies to chaos damage taken from hits, because I'm still a little bit weak to chaos, having 52% res. Our charm still helps a little bit. That brings us like 70% when we actually take a hit. But it's still like, I don't know if I want to be getting smacked by chaos that hard, but at the same time having almost 3.5k life is nice. And then the strength actually allows me to move strength off of the tree and go into other things, which we've done a bit. This is always still in testing. This is always still experimentation, but I'll tell you guys where we're at just because that's part of the fun. So I moved the talents out of the increased melee damage, and I just went over the top to get the strength, just to save a point. That you do get one more point going this way instead of the melee damage, but you do lose a little bit of melee damage, so you got to keep that in mind. I think overall my character is going to be doing about the same amount of damage as before. It's just, I think we're going to be bolstering our defense a little bit in the process, which is kind of what I'm looking for. For now, I'm still grabbing this armor stuff. I think I notice a difference when I have more armor versus less. And again, what we're trying to do with this iteration of the build is fill out our defenses a little bit while the damage is going to stay about the same. So I'm still going down here for attack speed, but you'll also notice I'm doing two different weapon sets now, which is a big deal. So for my base tree, I'm still getting the attack speed, but only for my mapping tree am I going for the increased area damage and AoE, right? So if it's a little bit of like a red line, this is for mapping only, and then the green lines will be for bossing only. So let's go through here. We are still doing the melee damage, and then melee damage to heavy stun enemies, but for mapping only, we are doing increased AoE. So that's pretty much the idea here, is for my mapping build, we're doing more AoE and AoE damage stuff. And then, well, it's really just AoE. AoE damage is okay, because everything that we do to bosses is AoE as well. But we're basically taking AoE stuff for mapping, and then for the bossing stuff, we're moving a lot of the AoE stuff into single target things like fire damage, because we're back to perfect strike, and Warcry stuff, because that's going to buff our damage against bosses. So for that, we're going into hits against burning enemies, into a little bit of extra damage as fire damage. This is just a nice 3 points to grab. If you need the ignite chance for your perfect strike, you can go over the top. It does cost 1 extra point, so just keep that in mind. Now we're going down here, still grabbing the big melee damage, and then we are for mapping only grabbing the AoE. So I do want to mention one thing, because I'm not 100% sold on it, but I did take points out of this. All this two-handed stuff. I really like this though, but I took the points out of it. And then also for my bossing setup for like the Sekima guy, I did go into this just to make sure that we could ignite enough, but I don't think we need that now. But this is a nice side of the tree for a little bit more ignite chance. The thing is, those bosses that we've been fighting, they're not that tough. We've just been fighting map bosses, and the Trial of Sekima's guy, you can really make him weak sauce and make yourself really strong with the buffs, which is what we did. We couldn't even take damage on the fight. We got a vendor right beforehand, and it gave us the vendor, or the little power up that we can't take damage in the next room. We still almost messed up the timer thing. I was trying to leap slam from one of the other leaps. Do not leap slam on that. Just run on the little intermission phase. Just run, and we almost messed it up, but we didn't. Thank goodness, because that would have been sad. But anyway, I still like this part of the tree a lot. It also gives you strength. So basically, the thing I'm not so sure about right now is I'm using rage quite a bit. I'm experimenting with the max rage stuff, and if I don't like it, then I'm just going to come back to this. That's the main thing that I wanted to sort of think about, because that's the part that's still mostly in flux. But anyway, let's pick up here. We're keeping the attack speed, skill speed. I came over here. So one of the things I'm noticing in maps, especially with Perfect Strike, is I don't want to be getting stunned. I feel like people, that's one of the things I've been hearing people fuss about, is stun stuff. I do feel like the monsters stun you a little bit more, and so I'm putting stuff back into some increased stun threshold. And this is based off of armor, and we're buffing our armor a bit with some armor nodes. I know armor's not like great, but I'm trying it anyway. I'm just experimenting at this point with some of this armor stuff, but I feel like I notice the difference when I have armor versus not. So, and I'm trying to get a little tankier, so we're going for some armor. So for both builds, I'm still grabbing some strength here, just because this is 25 strength. It's life, it's damage, and it helps us put our weapon on. But I'm not going for this strength either. So we've already cut like 25 strength off of our tree, but again, we're able to do that because we have this now. So stacking strength and just having more strength would be great, and we can have nearly 4k life if we wanted to, but I think there's other ways of using those points, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. So for mapping, we still have the AoE damage and AoE with Aftershock AoE. For both builds, I'm still doing the rage, because I mean, that's still good to have rage against bosses. You do your war cry, you have like 20 rage, right? It's kind of a big deal, and you do that twice and you're max rage. And now we're grabbing the stun threshold here with some little bit of strength and life. We're grabbing Resolute Technique for both builds, and then for the mapping build, we are going up to the AoE and AoE damage wheel with some stun build up. I still like that. Grabbing our jewels are still rage on hit. Chance to bleed is kind of whatever at this point. We're really not leaning into bleed very much. I think if I had the ideal jewels, I'd be looking for block chance, rage on hit, rage when hit, and we still could do bleed stuff, but even the chance to ignite one now might be good because we're using Perfect Strike again, and Perfect Strike does not have a 100% chance to ignite anymore. So that's something to think about. There's also other cool stuff like buffing empowered attacks. We could even go max fire res, but we don't really need max fire res right now. We are currently capped at 90% on everything. We are not capped on chaos though, but we're gonna work on that. 68% armor just standing around is not too bad, but we definitely need more of that too. But we'll work on that. Through here, we're grabbing the reduced attack speed, but big damage, big stun build-up stuff. We do sort of gain a little bit of attack speed by not taking the reduced attack speed here, but I also corrupted my gloves, and my gloves lost 5% attack speed, but they gained damage instead of mana. So I was just trying to basically get more sockets on my stuff to make to throw more little chaos resistance jewels in there, or you know, cores. So for here, I think we're seeing our first like, oh no, not our first one, but are seeing some more boss fighting talent allocation. So we are doing increased damage with empowered attacks. So we are using our Infernal Cry and then winding up some Perfect Strikes, and those will have 2 Perfect Strikes empowered by our Infernal Cry, which is cool. We're not really making the biggest use of double empowerment on Seismic Cry, but on a lot of these big bosses, you're really not going to be able to stun build up them that much anyway. I think you definitely can if you invest in stun build up, and part of me just wants to do that anyway. Part of me just wants to go, instead of like fire damage and ignite chance with my talents, I just want to go more stun build up and empower war cries and just like rolling slam bosses to a stun state and then rip them up with a huge hammer. But we'll see. I think that ideally requires 2 good two-handers to do weapon swap, hammer the gods thing. And right now, I think winding up Perfect Strikes, it's basic, it's simple, doesn't really require that much stuff, and it will get the job done. It seems like bosses now, like big bosses, are supposed to take a little while. I'm sure you can still one-shot them with certain builds, but while we're doing like a budget warrior build, Perfect Strike I think is still a good thing to use against these bosses, and it's still relatively easy to use. And again, if you get some ignite rolling, you're going to do enough damage to sort of chip a boss down, and you're going to be tanky enough to survive whatever hits they do. As long as you don't get one-shotted, you can recover from it with leech and recovery and whatnot, so should be all right. But anyway, Perfect Strike's a good way to get that done. So for this side of the tree, I've done some things on this side that are experimental, right? But I'll show you what I feel confident in. So all this stuff is still good. The mace damage is still good. We are anointing for Titanic, but since we're pathing right past it, I mean, maybe we don't. Because the stun build-up is nice too. You can even take stun threshold if you like. But I still like Titanic a lot. Stun build-up, stun threshold, and percent strength is still great. I think that's a fun one. If I was going to anoint for something else, I don't even know what I would do. Maybe attack speed or something. But Titanic's good. And it saves you, again, a couple points in just stun build-up, which is like, that's fine. Especially because against bosses, stun build-up is kind of nice, but it's not required anymore if all we're doing is perfect striking. Usually by the time a boss is like stunnable, they're just dead anyway, right? So anyway, we've got some fire penetration going into fire penetration and stun build-up with heavy hits that stun inflict fire exposure, which reduces their fire resistance some more fire damage, and more chance to ignite, and hits against ignited enemies do more damage. So you could go this way, which I decided to, but if you just want to buff the ignite, which I really might want to do, right now I'm thinking, whatever. I'm not buffing my ignite that much. I just want to hit the enemy and have it, do damage, and that's fine. But you could definitely go through this way. It just also requires another point. But yeah, right now I just want to basically get the chance to ignite where it needs to be, and then do damage against ignited enemies. So that's there. Now this part right here is where I'm saying it's kind of experimental, right? Because I'm back. I love this node, this wheel so much. This rage when hit by an enemy, and then it also granting you armor is so cool. But one of the reasons I'm doing this is because we are stacking a lot of rage right now. I feel like, again, my builds always do this. I always try different stuff as we progress. I remember doing something like this before. It feels good now, though. We have a jewel that gives me an increased chance to ignite and elemental damage and AoE, which is great for perfect striking. I think we have more ignite chance than we need for the bossing build, which is fine. But for the mapping build, it's like you still kind of want to have a perfect strike hit a rare really hard whenever you're mapping around and a rare survives your like stampede and Boneshatter or whatever. But we'll come down here. We got some more strength, the usual. Nothing really changed in this part of the tree with strength and reduced mana, whatever. We're still getting a lot of damage per strength, and again, we could have like 650 strength if we wanted to, which this node starts to do some more damage when you start to scale it up like that. But again, I'm basically taking the extra strength cap that we had and be like, okay, so let me bring that down and put the points elsewhere. Which is why the tree looks like this. But if again, I wish I had had a chance to show you guys like this sort of mid step where it still had all of this stuff, because this kind of represents like big change. But I don't want to skip the step of this is still here, right? We don't have this up here, right? And we don't have this down here. But what we do have is still the two-handed weapon damage stuff, and then all the strength on the tree too, to get you to this, right? Because you might not be able to shave off all these strength nodes. You might have to take this off. You can't take this off. You can't take all of these off until you get this, right? So if you're not having enough strength to do this stuff right here and right here with the rage, that's okay. That's okay, because the strength on the tree will help get you there. So again, just to reiterate, I think that's pretty much what was happening. Is the points for this and this came from this and this. Okay, so that's kind of like the half step that I wish I had been able to had time to show you guys, but happens. Busy times, boys. Busy times. But we've got this still 5% all res, 1% max fire res. Now, if we wanted to change something about my belt, we could maybe go here and see if we could like if we find a better belt, we could like kind of still make sure we have 7 all res, because now we're up here, so it's not really that crazy to go to spend 3 points on this, because I'll show you the belt we're using right now. And the main reason we're using that belt is basically just because of this right here. So if we wanted to change that, we could. That's no biggie. So we came down here though. This is what I'm talking about. So there's some interesting things happened. We would come down here anyway, because we do want to get the boss tree access to this fire damage, fire pen, duration of the ailment, which is ignite for us, and then we have a bunch of chance to ignite, 15% chance to ignite plus 30% chance to ignite. So we have the 70% chance to ignite just from these things alone, 70% chance to ignite, and 70% increased damage against ignited enemies. So that's really nice. Now what's gone interesting is we're also going here for all of this maximum rage for this one. So this means that we're running around with 48% rage, which means we have 48% more damage when we're fully stacked with rage. We have 48% increased armor all the time too when we're stacked max, and we also have nearly 100% increased stun threshold, in addition to getting a bunch of rage when hit too. So that's pretty big. I haven't, like, I know I've done this before and I haven't been fully in love with rage, and I don't think rage probably really comes online until we get axes and probably Marauder, who can probably be a berserker, just judging off of like what they get from axes, right? All this rage on melee hit, max rage while wielding an axe. Can you imagine running around with like 60% more damage just from rage and stuff? That's gonna be crazy. But the rage does feel pretty okay. I actually do like it, but I'm just not 100% sure on it. So this is where we have gone into some experimental waters here. And one of the concerns is like, okay, so you don't have that much rage against bosses. Well, you do, right? It's just one of the things I might want to do is have some kind of reduced cooldown time on my shouts. Maybe move points around somewhere so I can have the shouts come up more frequently so that you can get to your max rage like more quickly. It'll take about 8 seconds for you to be fully maxed out on rage, but on a long boss, if you don't really mind like not one-shotting them instantly, that's one thing. But against like Arbiter, like you don't really want to mess around with that guy, because if he starts going through all his phases, those are all like one-shots, so you gotta be careful with that. But I'll experiment. I know I've done this before with rage and I didn't love it, but we're kind of at that point in the build where it's like, well, let's try rage, because that's how it goes. But those are basically my talents right now. In terms of my gear, we still have our good old hammer, and I can show you what I'm working with, but remember, I'm going to kind of tell you what you're looking for in general. Always got to balance things out. Always want to keep your resistances looking solid. In our case, as a smith, we can pretty much expect to have max resistances across the board if you kind of make use of all your tools, primarily through your ascendancy, where you are getting plus max fire res, and then your fire res, your max fire res applies to cold and lightning resistance, and then you have access to this, which gives you max fire res, this part of the tree, which gives you max fire res, and then of course just having it on your gear when needed as well. But for your weapon in particular, you want percent increased physical damage, adds physical damage. Ideally you get like an accuracy physical damage hybrid roll. And then for suffixes, I like attack speed plus melee skills. And then I think even stun duration is really good for a build like this, because we're doing more damage to stun enemies here, and then this is the big one right here. This is actually the more modifier, so that's huge. So the more hits you can get in on a stun enemy, the better, right? And stun also protects you, right? It's a defensive thing too. If they're stunned, they're not hitting you most of the time. Some of those bosses are, you never know, man. And in terms of my gear, I changed my helmet a little bit. I think I dropped a lot of max life on my helmet to give me some armor, but it also bolstered my resistances quite a bit. So we are like very chilling. We are above 160% fire res, so we're getting that extra little bracket of max res, which puts us at 90 instead of 89, which is cool. We did drop the life a little bit, but we maintain the strength. We also get rarity, which is kind of nice, and we get more armor. I know people are kind of down on armor, but I want to be a believer in armor. I want to believe. I feel a difference when I have more or less armor in maps, at least. It might not save you from getting one-shotted from bosses, but that's different. The ring, again, rings and all the rest of your gear, basically besides weapon, are looking for strength and life, and then resist that you need. I also have some dex on this, which is great. So don't need accuracy yet, but I mean, again, it's always an option. This is another cool place to get accuracy if you need it, but life, strength, resists on your gear is the name of the game. One of the things about gloves is gloves can have some really cool suffixes. They can have attack speed, and they can have melee skills, which we don't have on these, but my gear is still pretty bad, which is fine, because the character is like doing everything it needs to do. It's just we can make a lot of improvements if we just like farmed more currency and got some more drops. The chest piece is a normal chest piece. Just qual it all the way up, put 2 sockets on it, corrupt it, hope for a 3rd socket, good to go. The base that I'm using is the ornate plate. There are higher armor bases, which are good as well, but this one gives me 2.5% of max life per second regen, which is also pretty dang nice. Now the belt, this belt is something that you guys might want to consider picking up. it will give us a whole lot of max fire res, which is great if we need that. Again, if you wanted to save 3 points on the tree, then you could use this belt. If you want to just put a couple points in the tree and you find a really, really good belt with like a ton of life, a ton of strength, resists and whatnot, other cool stuff, or if you eventually want to put on the ingenuity, maybe. I'm not sure if it got nerfed to the point where you don't want to wear it. I bet you still do. But anyway, this is a pretty easy to pick up thing. One of the things that's nice about uniques is they're always like a certain thing, and so they always have like a certain price. This just gives you armor strength, max fire res, great. So it helps get that max res up, both in terms of giving you a nice chunk of fire res, but also just giving you straight 5% max fire resistance. And then strength and armor are cool too. Again, you can find a rare that's kind of like this. If it gives a big fire res, even more strength, even more life, and other cool things, you could slap that bad boy on. And then if you have 3 points to spend, this right here is an easy 7% fire res, or max fire res, which is 7% all res, right? So pretty chillin' there, as long as it has fire res and strength and life. I mean, you're pretty much good to go. And I do have some belts that are like that. It's just I don't think I have the points right now to let that go. So like a belt like this has not fire res on it, unfortunately. But so if we put this on instead, right, we go down to 84 fire res. So if we wanted to spend 3 points to crank that all the way back up, we would be fine. It would definitely cap us out, and I'll consider it, especially because I can gain a lot of life and strength from doing that sort of thing, right? So I don't need it right now, but just something to consider. The gear, again, is like, it's not that great, but it's good enough, so we're kind of just chilling. Definitely not in the optimization, like tip-top optimization of this character yet. But that's a cool belt that you guys might want to look out for anyway. So for the boots, again, these boots are not very good. They don't even have strength on them. But again, this gave me some like mobility with my gear because we have so much strength anyway. These do give me more life, and they do give me fire res to help me get to that next little break point of fire resistance, so that I can put I can still have 160% fire res, but also still put soul cores in all of my stuff. So that I get the chaos res, which is a big deal. That's mostly how I'm getting chaos res. You could get chaos res on other pieces of gear like shield and stuff, but it's just not what I got. So, but we still have the 30%. Oh, you know what? They don't. That's troll. I corrupted them and they took the movement speed off. Now that I'm looking at it, that's funny. Okay, well, I'm glad I saw that. Let's put my other boots back on. Bink. All right, we're chilling. The corruption can be cool, but it can also be very, very troll. I can't let. I think I put a. I hope I put the soul core in after. What the heck? those are now not very good. Okay, you guys can live there. Sheesh. Good thing we do these videos. I was feeling like I was running a little slow towards the treasure chest there. Okay, so that changes things a little bit. Now we're back to 89% fire res. Whatever. Same thing. If we wanted to, we could just pull a point and put it on our thing. So whatever. That's funny. You definitely, okay, that's a good thing to mention. You definitely want movement speed on your boots. That's above all. But we also could get life, strength, resist here. Rarity is also nice. Just a little bit of rarity from the helmet is cool. A little bit of rarity from the boots is cool. Help to get those drops because we're gonna need them. You can tell. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need them drops. Gonna need that loot. But then we also have life, strength, a little bit of mana leech on the ring, which is cool. Everything else is not very great though. The chaos lightning damage does like nothing for us. But ideally, again, you want like strength, resist, life on rings. For shield, you really want block chance. Big roll on block chance just buffs that block chance up. I'm not investing in block chance at all in the tree. If you are feeling like you're just getting crushed in maps, block chance is one of the things that you can do to try to bolster your ability to not take every hit and just give you a little bit of breathing room to recover in between. But you want block chance, strength. For us, armor is fine. Definitely don't want thorns on my shield, personally. It rolled, but it is what it is. But block chance, life, armor is great. And for suffixes, strength, fire resistance, and probably percent reduced physical damage taken is a great one. And again, I'm just socketing chaos resistant to like everything. On my gloves, I do have the rage on hit, and then on the weapon, of course, we have the increased physical damage. But that's where my gear is at. And then, of course, we have this little guy too. I can show you my
Go on.
My Atlas passives before we talk about skills. We glossed over the skills real quick. We need to make sure we do that, of course. Show you what actually abilities I'm using. I feel like most of the things that have changed have been my gear and my talents and whatnot. But right now I'm just going for more monsters in the maps, and I'm going for more map drops, with hopefully dropping me some socket currency like the perfect jewelers. We're gonna need those. They're also money if you find them. I like precursor tablets. I like buffing up the precursors, and I'm even having the chance to double the effect of the precursors, which is cool. And then over here, I'm just going for some more map stuff, trying to find more rarity on maps, just because like that way you don't have to spend exalts rolling them or regals or whatever. And it's just sometimes nice to just throw them in there and just go, right? I like to just click and go. And then we have quantity of waystones found. So I'm trying to make sure we sustain on 15s, which we are comfortably doing with this setup right here, as long as you're, you know, running your maps at least like rare and trying to find some boss maps along the way to bump up the tier of the waystone. But yeah, let me not forget to talk about skills, man. Sorry about that. We don't, you know, have the most time, so I'm trying to like make sure we get everything done. But let's talk about this. So Mace Strike, I don't use it very much. When I do, we have it doing more damage at close range. I just randomly chuck a bleed on there, so if I want to put it bleed somewhere, I don't have to like go get it on my stash. Rage, same thing. Heft, same thing. And then Culling Strike, we could literally play nothing but Culling Strike on my Mace Strike, and it would pretty much do what I'm asking it to do. Just mostly using it to cull enemies if they like have survived. They're like the last mob straggling around. They're like 1 HP. Just bink, just smack them real quick with a melee attack. Leap Slam. You'll notice we bought some Greater Jeweler's Orbs. I found like 1 total Greater Jeweler's Orb the entire time I've been playing. So I just went ahead and bought some. They're like 25 exalt, so they don't cost nothing, but they help. They help. So we have Orb Power. We have Brink. Brink continues to be one of them things that is a huge deal for a warrior. Maybe not as much of a big deal now, but when you're leveling, like Brink with Leap Slam, Boneshatter carries you through everything for a very long time. Now we're starting to do enough damage that we can Stampede, which is fun because I like the Stampede playstyle too. But when we do Leap Slam, we're asking it to stun a ton, but not too much. And then we are getting a nice little healing circle on the ground when we land. Mostly here for bosses, because I think frequently in the maps you're kind of like Leap Slamming and like rolling out of it, but whatever. It's also nice to reduce the impact of curses on you. And I have it just doing it a little bit more attack speed, just so we can zoom around a little faster. For Boneshatter, another one of your bread and butter abilities that as time goes on becomes a little bit less important as you do more damage, but this will carry you forever. If you put Impact Shockwave in it and Magnified Effect, you're pretty much good to go. Since we're using Resolute Technique, we can not worry about an accuracy penalty and just get more AoE on it. And I am still using it to break armor. It's nice to have the armor broken effect on a boss when you stun them into your big combo, but also in maps it's just nice to... I like the sound of armor break, is one of the main things. If I don't use armor break, I kind of miss that clank sound. But it's also giving us huge stacks of scavenge plating the entire map, so that's good. For Hammer of the Gods, I'm making it consume some rage, hit harder for attack speed trade-off. I am having it consume the fully armor broken effect to deal more damage. And we also have it ancestrally boosted so that it does more AoE and more damage without really kind of any penalty. And it makes the hammer red when it falls to the ground, which looks badass. So that's pretty cool. We can't hammer right now, though, unfortunately. So Perfect Strike, we have switched out Rolling Slam for Perfect Strike. This is kind of like we're moving into fighting bosses build here. It's fine for maps too. If there's a rare that survives, wind one up on them. So for this, we've got Window of Opportunity, so that Perfect Strike timing window is a little bit like tighter, but it doesn't really seem to be a problem. We have it doing more weapon elemental damage. We have it penetrating fire resistance, and we have it doing a longer ignite, but a less chance to ignite. This is definitely not a problem in the boss fighting build, but something to consider with the other one. So this one right here, the damage, supported skills penetrate fire res, I may want to consider putting just more damage in here somewhere, but this is just what I've got going for now, and it seems fine. Infernal Cry, this is what you use before you do a big attack, frequently before like Infernal or before Perfect Strike. It will be making the skill do more damage. It will be costing less, and it will be giving me rage per power of counted enemies. So against the boss, you're getting like 16 rage every time you shout. So that's kind of nice. So that combined with the hit, it's going to give you some good rage gain when you're starting a boss fight. It takes a second to get ramped up, but once you do, you're pretty much good to go. And remember, we're using rage to make us do more damage, but also take less damage and be more resistant to stuns. There's just a little bit of a ramp involved, but it's not too bad, especially because boss fights kind of take a little bit longer anyway now. Seismic Cry, we're using this to daze enemies, which makes them more vulnerable to stun build up. We have this just costing life instead of mana to make sure we don't like completely drain our mana as soon as we use shouts. And then this consumes rage to make the empowered skill do more damage. So if you do stun an enemy, you're going to be Infernal Cry, Seismic Cry, and hammering them. It's going to do a lot of damage, that hammer. So this is kind of weird. Berserk is kind of a fun one. It gives you more increase of rage effect, right? So, and then you can even quality it up to make it even more. So usually we're doing 48 rage equals 48% more damage. Now it's going to be closer to like, what, 75% more damage if I understand correctly. So, but it does drain your health a little bit, but it also gives you leech. So as long as your recovery is okay, you're mostly pretty fine. I think I felt the sting of this more when I was using blood magic, but I'm not really using blood magic right now. I like blood magic. I just don't need it right now. Mana's not a problem because we have all this mana leech on my gear. It just sort of happens to be that way. Let me put this on there too. We don't want to fast forward. Where's my persistence? Just very quickly, kind of dropped out of my inventory somewhere. Where'd persistence go? Did I put it in something else? Where'd it go? I want persistence on my I'm gonna have to. Oh, there it is. Just blind. Okay. Great. Plop that there. So anyway, I'm using Berserk right now. This is part of the experiment. Obviously, if I'm not investing in all this rage stuff, I'm not using Berserk. What I'm using is Scavenge Plating, and I still like Time of Need quite a bit for the little heal over time thing. But against a boss, like a big boss, instead of Scavenge Plating, chuck in Overwhelming Presence. That's something that I used to do a lot, but I just wasn't doing it recently. But now that we're fighting big bosses, it's kind of like worth your time to take 2 seconds and chuck in Overwhelming Presence. Plus, if you are like me and you forget to like swap your stuff around against the boss, just press your skill menu, and then you can mess with your gear and your auras and whatever else you want to do before the boss. So like for me, I don't weapon swap just to do the hammer technique right now, which is something you might want to do eventually. What I do against bosses, I'll just do this. Just swap in a weapon set 2. And now I'm using all of these talents, right? So when I'm fighting a boss, I'll make sure I'm in weapon set 2. When I'm doing maps, I will swap this. I don't know why it's not letting me swap right now, though. Pressing X, it's not swapping my weapon. There we go. There. So now we're back to mapping. That's basically what I do against bosses. But anyway, to finish up, we have Scavenge Plating for armor. So I'm kind of doing this for mapping where we're stacking a lot, right? So we get in combat, we get our rage going, and then we start getting some Scavenge Plating stacks going. Then we're doing a lot of extra damage and taking less damage. Our health regen is not really taking place from Time of Need, but we have extra life leech, which is fine. It's a lot of life leech too, right? Because of all that rage. And then just got to make sure that you're not like having too much downtime in the map. So this is like a good one for rolling through the maps. But before that, I was using Time of Need and Scavenge Plating still, or you could use Time of Need and you can use Overwhelming Presence, or if you need more clear, go back to Herald of Ash, and that's fine too. Just make sure that you have Cannibalism, Clarity, Herbalism in there for the life and mana recovery, and then Persistence on Scavenge Plating, or Fast Forward on Time of Need, so you can make sure that the buff ticks more frequently. But now that we're not using Fast Forward on Time of Need, you could chuck it in Hammer and make that Hammer fall down a lot more quickly if you wanted to not wait so long for Hammer to drop. And then we have good old Stampede. I don't know why I have it all the way down here at the bottom. I feel like it deserves a little bit higher of a spot in there, but we have Momentum so that it does more damage as it travels. Once you kind of have traveled a little bit, you turn green and you do a big slam, which is nice. I have Splinter for percentage of physical damage is contributing to armor break, and then when they get fully broken, they explode. This is one of those things that makes it nice to have increased armor broken effect on your tree, which I don't have right now, but that's another way to get some really good damage. If we weren't doing like Berserk stuff, we could definitely do like increased armor break, and our enemies take more damage when armor broken kind of deal. Like these talents right here do that, basically. That's another way to go, which would be really fun. Done it before, we could do it again. And then what I've got going right now is Stomping Ground. So in the past, I've just used like Aftershock support stuff to make the Stampede do more Aftershock stuff, which is good, but since you're not a Titan, you don't really get as much value out of the Aftershock stuff. And Shockwave's Stomping Ground means that you do more damage like right off the bat. So these little circles that are coming around my character when we're running around are these little shockwaves, and I feel like that's actually feeling really nice right now, especially because that's something that scales with strength. So it deals 100%, 150% of your strength is physical damage, and we have a lot of strength. So something that you can do. Again, later on, I might just want to do Aftershocks so that you have all the value of the Aftershock talent that you have. I mean, it still does Aftershock a little bit, but for whatever reason, I just feel like the Stomping Ground feels really good. Enemies take larger hits right off the bat. Their armor gets broken right off the bat. and you just run them down. We'll probably still chuck Aftershock support in there eventually once we get like the 6 links on it, but that's what we got going for right now. We'll have some gameplay for you guys as well. Maybe we'll do a little bit of commentary over that, maybe show you some boss fights, and then we'll do more on stream. But that's going to be that for the actual like build, like discussion and overview. Again, there's a lot on my mind with this game, and there's a lot on my mind with these builds, and I would love to show you guys every sort of in-between stuff, but that's what we've got going right now, is the Berserk heavy and defense sort of investment part of this build. Now thanks to the fact that we got our 4th Ascendancy, and we could definitely stack more strength, we could definitely get more life. There's a lot of room for this character to improve, because this gear is alright, but I mean, it's still, all of this is like well under, like 10 divine is like a high estimate for like where this is, and that's even counting like all like the soul cores and stuff, and like the purchase of all the greater stuff. So I haven't really been able to play as much, it feels like, of this guy, because we've been making sure we're doing our WoW grind, because Twitch seems to like WoW more, but YouTube seems to like PoE more, so I'm trying to find a balance there. But I'm loving PoE still, but we haven't been playing as much. But what's good is that means this character is still like very, very budget, and it's still absolutely getting the job done. We're tearing through T15 maps. We're able to easily get the 4th Ascendancy done, despite it being kind of a pain in the butt. And I don't think that this character is going to sort of reach any kind of walls anytime soon, especially as we continue to invest in more boss killing, if that's what we need to do. But he's feeling good. I'm having a blast. Hope you guys are still enjoying the build updates. Thank you for watching. Thank you for showing the love. It definitely keeps the PoE on the menu, which makes me very, very happy. And looking forward to more. Either way, I gotta run. See you guys next time. Peace.
Your tolerance of the intolerable is admirable.
No, keep him up here. Slice, forgive me.
No chance.
No.
I need more time.
I've killed before, and I'll do it again.
Cower! Meek creature!
Break!
I need more time. I need more time. I can't yet. Weak! Out of mana.